I've been fixing and tinkering on small engines for several years, and I'm not an expert in any sort of way, but I have lots of experience, which is always good. Something else that comes along with this experience is having to deal with the owners of the equipment I fix, and some of the interactions I've had with them have left me either in a state of surprise and sometimes shock. I honestly have to wonder, what have I done to deserve this sort of treatment? In today's video, we look at this chainsaw, and the problem was that it had been in storage for a very long time and it wouldn't start. Now, I've already fixed this in a previous video, so if you want to see that video, there should be a link to it at the top of the screen or at the end of this video. However, before I fixed it, I had to give it a quick cleaning, that way I wouldn't get dirt in places like the carb, fuel tank, or even inside the engine. While I clean this chainsaw, I'm going to tell you about a few surprising interactions I mentioned at the beginning of this video, and a few others if there's enough time. I got a call from a coworker who wanted me to work on their chainsaw. I asked them the standard questions about what the issue was, the last time it was used, and finally about how they used and took care of their saw, which of course is the most interesting part. But it's what they asked me at the end of the conversation that made me drop my jaw. They asked if I could borrow a saw as a loaner while I worked on theirs. I had to stop myself laughing into the phone. After I regained my composure, I told them, "No, sorry, I don't have a loaner for you. When can I come by and pick up your saw?" They then came back with,
"I know you've got a couple of saws at your place. Just bring one of them over to my house after work and I'll give you mine to fix."
I said, "That might be true, but that's not how this works. I don't loan out my stuff to people I do work for." We then agreed to meet up the next day, but for whatever reason, they contacted me and told me they'd have to reschedule due to unforeseen issues. As you might have guessed, they never rescheduled, and I wouldn't hear from them again for quite some time, that is until 2 months later when they needed my help once again. Now, by this time, it was summer, and if you hadn't mowed your yard yet, I'm sure the city would have been on your case about the height of your grass. Now, this was more than likely the situation they were in. The conversation started with them needing their trimmer serviced, and we ended up making plans to meet up, but if you hadn't guessed it, yet again, they had to reschedule, which never happened. Now, at this point, they're on my list of unreliable customers. However, they hadn't made it to my do not service list just yet, but that was going to change, and it was going to take about another year before that happened. About a year later, they made contact with me and asked to buy a mower and a trimmer. I asked them what kind of extras they wanted on the mower, such as self-propel, and whether they would like a bag with it. After they made their decisions on what kind of mower and trimmer they wanted, we agreed on the price, which happened to be half the market value. Then we agreed on a time to meet up and make the buy. But if you'd guessed it, they called and rescheduled, but this time I never heard from them again. Now, I really wasn't surprised at this point by their actions, but I did have to question how someone could go through life with this sort of non-committal behavior. I guess I must care too much about punctuality or believing that other people's time is worth something. So what if they called and wanted my help again? Easy. We'd talk, make plans, and more than likely, they'd back out of it again. Knowing that I really wasn't wasting too much of my time except the time it takes to make a few text messages, I really don't mind playing their games. Now, everyone I do business with, whether that be servicing or selling, is pretty nice to do work with. I will be the first to admit this. I like working alone, by myself, slaving behind my tripod and camera, and then working for hours in front of a monitor and keyboard, but at some point, I'm going to have to deal with a real person with feelings and emotions, and as much as I wish I could skip that part, it's just part of this hobby I enjoy doing so much. If you can fix any machine you come across, whether that be a trimmer, a tractor, or even a commercial truck and trailer, but have zero people skills, you're going to find it hard to stay in business. Now, I've talked to plenty of enthusiasts who could rebuild a classic car from the ground up or get a vintage computer up and running again, but they have a hard time talking to the customers without coming across as socially inept. Now, you don't have to have a silver tongue to do business, but it certainly helps when talking to new customers. Sometimes I'll get phone calls from people I've never met before. They'll have gotten my name and number from people I've done work for, which is a great thing. It means I've won their confidence and they're willing to refer me to other people, which is the best type of advertising I could ask for. However, I'm not able to control what kind of people make contact with me. I was contacted by a friend of a good customer and they wanted a mower and a trimmer. We made the arrangements, and even though they had a difficult time meeting up on time, I didn't hold it against them because it had to do with their children's sporting activities. But nonetheless, it was a rough transaction. However, this wasn't enough to say they were going to be a questionable customer. Yet again, it would take another year before I was able to make that assessment. Now, for some reason, about the same time the next year, they made contact with me asking for yet another mower and trimmer combo, but also asked to include an edger this time. I didn't ask what happened to the stuff from last year, but it's safe to assume they were long gone. Now, this was a great opportunity to unload 3 pieces of equipment, so I was more than happy to sell them what they were asking for. Now, after working out the details, I told them what the price breakdown was for each item, and if you guessed it, this is when things go wrong. They let me know without really saying it that they only had enough for the mower and the trimmer and would have to wait for the edger, but after that I never heard from them again. Now I tried to make contact with them, but I didn't get an answer, so that's where I left it. It would take another month before I heard from them again. Out of the blue, they called me after I got home from work and asked about the equipment. I let them know that I still had them ready, but what they said kind of shocked me. They said,
Would you mind coming by and dropping them off? It'll be a few weeks before I can pay you.
I very kindly told them, why don't you let me know when you have the money and then I'll come by and drop them off. They very abruptly said they would and hung up, and that was the last I've heard from them. They were basically asking if I wouldn't mind letting them have and use the equipment for free until I found it within their ability to pay for it. Unfortunately, that's not how this works. Now, I'm not an unreasonable person. If they had asked if there was a way to make this deal happen without using money, I'm sure we could have come to some sort of agreement. So how would the conversation have gone if they wanted it to go their way? I would imagine it would have gone something like this.
Sorry I didn't get back with you. I had a lot going on. Say, I'm a little short on funds at the moment. Is there a way I could at least get the mower from you?
Sorry to hear that things are tough right now. Do you have something I can hold that's worth as much as the mower? I can take that as payment until you get the rest of the money together. It really was unfortunate it didn't work out for them, but they didn't have to handle it the way they did. So what would I do if they called me and asked for my help again? To be honest, I would answer their call and talk to them and at least hear what they had to say. Unfortunately, depending upon what they were asking for, their past exchanges with me would weigh heavily against them. Now, I can't really say the interactions I've had with this person was really shocking or surprising, but that's because their actions have been less than stellar from day one. What does surprise me is that their behavior hasn't improved in all the time I've tried to do business with them. I really don't ask for much when it comes to interactions with people, but some professionalism would be nice. So I've given you some examples of how things go wrong, but what does a good interaction look like? I would imagine it would go something like this. I would receive a call asking for service. I'd ask them a few standard questions about the equipment, and then I would come by, pick it up and take it home, inspect it, and then contact them about what I think is wrong with it. Give them a quote and then a time frame of when I think I can get it done by. When it's done, we make arrangements for me to drop it off and confirm they have the agreed amount. If it was a sale, the interaction would be the exact same, except when I drop it off, whatever it is they want to buy, I would have them try it out first and then payment would be made. Unfortunately, there would be no haggling because if you didn't know it, I rarely charge market value and oftentimes I'm well below it. So if we couldn't agree on the price, I'd kindly have to decline the sale. I wouldn't take it personally, I would just realize they were a very shrewd buyer. Now, if I came across a different piece of equipment that I felt fit their criteria, I would offer it again to them. However, if they tried it out again and felt as though the price didn't reflect how they felt about it, I'd decline the offer again and then realize that we may never come to an agreement. So my question is, am I being unreasonable with my sales or service? Personally, I don't think I am, but then again, I am obviously a bit biased. Hopefully you'd see it from my point of view. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.